Heroes can be found in the most unlikely of places. Perhaps we all have it within us to do great things, but may simply lack the circumstances or the reason to be heroic. For Jack, his journey to becoming a hero all started with a humble cow. Her name was Tulip. She was the last cow that Jack and his mother owned. Long ago, when Jack's father was still alive, their family farm had been successful and prosperous. They had owned a whole herd of the very best cows in the land. But things changed. Disease had killed most of the cows, and Jack and his mother had been forced to sell the rest, along with the fields and pastures that the cows had grazed on, just in order to make ends meet. Now they had to face up to the fact that they had no other choice but to sell their very last cow, Tulip. She was a good cow, healthy and robust, and she would bring a good price at the market. But Jack knew that once the money from this cow was all used up, there would be no more. Not unless they sold the farmhouse itself. And then where would they live? So it was with a heavy heart that Jack said goodbye to his mother and began the trip into the town, leading the cow behind him and talking to her all the way to keep his spirits up. As they neared the outskirts of the town, the houses gradually became larger and grander. On their way past an especially large and grand house, Jack heard a voice calling out from behind the ornate metal gates. It was weak and faint, but the words were clear. "Help me, please." Jack looked around to see if there was anybody else about, but he was alone. There was no one else the voice could be calling to. So Jack went to the gates and leaned forward to peer through them. As he did so, one of the gates swung slowly open. Curiously, but cautiously, Jack went through. A man was lying inside the gates, just out of sight of the road. He was breathing heavily, and there was blood on his shirt. Leaving the cow to graze on a rather fine stretch of lawn, Jack ran to help the man. As he approached, he was surprised to recognize him. It was Councillor Jevon, one of the more senior of the country's officials. "Councillor," Jack gasped as he reached him. "What happened to you? I must get help." Councillor Jevon grabbed Jack's arm. He shook his head weakly, and a trickle of blood ran out of the side of his mouth. "No," he said quietly. "It's too late for me, but I have to make amends." "Amends?" Jack said. "What for?" "For what I have done. I have betrayed everyone." His breathing was labored, and the blood bubbled at his lips. And Jack could see that the councillor was not long for this world. He listened as the dying man went on. "Not through choice, you understand. I thought I was creating a bright future for our world, riches and abundance. But I was tricked. And now, unless you help me, it is too late." "Too late for what?" Jack asked. "Too late for us all." The councillor's eyes widened. "Tell me you will help," he demanded. "Of course, if I can," Jack replied. The councillor fumbled in his pocket and finally managed to pull out a small metal object that was rounded like an egg and set with an intricate pattern of wires and studs. He pressed it into Jack's hands. "What's this?" Jack asked. He had never seen anything like it before. "I took it from the monster," Councillor Jevon said. He was finding it difficult to speak. "The monster I brought here." Jack looked around, horrified, but the councillor said quickly, "It's all right. The monster is dead. I killed it." He gave a rasping, throaty laugh. "Though I fear it has also killed me."